In this video, I'm going to show you how to evaluate trig functions like these using the sum and difference identities that are right here. There's also a tangent one. Tangent one's down here. Let's get started. Now here's the thing. 75 degrees is not one of the special angles that we have memorized. The special angles that we have memorized the trig values of are 45 degrees, 30 degrees, and 60 degrees. Here are those same angles in radians. So 75 degrees is not one of them. But is there a way to write 75 degrees using either 45 degrees or 30 degrees or 60 degrees? Sure. For example, we could add 45 and 30, and that would be 75. Okay, so I could rewrite this as the sine of 45 plus 30. And that's where these angle sum formulas come in. So the sine of something plus something, the pattern is sine cosine plus cosine sine. So this is going to be sine 45 cosine 30 plus cosine 45 sine 30. Now each of these we've memorized. By the way, make sure you have indeed memorized all of the facts on this chart. You just straight need to have these memorized. Okay, so the sine of 45 degrees we know is going to be radical 2 over 2. And the cosine of 30 degrees is radical 3 over 2. All right, and the cosine of 45 degrees is radical 2 over 2, and the cosine of 30 degrees, and the sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. So all we really have to do is simplify this down, and we'll be done. So this will be radical 6 over 4 plus radical 2 over 4. They already have like denominators, so we can just go ahead and say radical 6 plus radical 2 over 4. Okay, so that's how you do it when it's in degrees. But what about when it's given to you in radians? Well, there are a couple tricks I like to use. Here's the main trick that I use. I take the angle in radians that they gave me, and I subtract pi over 4 from it to see what I get. Now, I would need like denominators, so I would have to multiply by 3 in the numerator and the denominator. So this is really 17 pi minus 3 pi, so that's really going to be negative 20 pi over 12. So I'm going to reduce all of this back down. So then I will have negative 17 pi over 12 minus pi over 4 is equal to, let's see, both of these are divisible by 4. So this will be negative 5 pi over 3. Now if I add pi over 4 to both sides, then I'm going to have negative 17 pi over 12 is equal to pi over 4 minus 5 pi over 3. So this is what I'm going to substitute in place of negative 17 pi over 12, because these are equal. So I can rewrite this problem as the cosine of pi over 4 minus 5 pi over 3. Okay, And now I can use the formula. So if I do the cosine of a subtraction, it's going to go cosine, cosine plus sine, sine. So it's going to go cosine pi over 4, cosine 5 pi over 3, plus, all right, notice how it changes from subtraction to addition, plus sine pi over 4, sine 5 pi over 3. So it's just a matter of evaluating these things. But as we were discussing before, we've memorized the sine, cosine, and tangent of these three angles. So cosine of pi over 4, again, is radical 2 over 2. All right, so that's going to be radical 2 over 2. All right, now the sine of 5 pi over 3 takes a tiny bit more thought. You see that the reference angle is pi over 3. All right, the reference angle is pi over 3. What is the cosine of pi over 3? Well, that's going to be 1/2. So that means the cosine of 5 pi over 3 is either going to be 1/2 or it could be negative 1/2. All right, it's one of these two. To decide which one it is, I just need to visualize what quadrant we are in. Okay, so you should not have to draw this. I'm just drawing it because you can't read my mind, and I need to teach you how to do it. But this is what you should be picturing in your head. Now, this is 3 pi over 3 is right here. Okay, so that means this is 4 pi over 3, and this is 5 pi over 3. Okay, so the question is, what quadrant is this? Well, here we are in the fourth quadrant. Cosine is going to be positive in this quadrant because, look, here's the y-axis, and this is to the right of that. So cosine is an x value. It will be positive in the fourth quadrant. Okay, so that's why we're going to have positive 1/2. Sine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. Sine of 5 pi over 3. Again, the sine of pi over 3 is radical 3 over 2. Okay, we have memorized that. So this is either going to be positive radical 3 over 2 or negative radical 3 over 2. In this quadrant, sine is negative because sine is a y value and this is down. So all I have to do is simplify this. So this is going to make radical 2 over 4, and then plus, and I'm going to have negative radical 6 over 4, all right, because I'm multiplying and this one's negative. So when I put these together, it's really just going to be radical 2 minus radical 6 all over 4. So that is how you evaluate when they give you the angle in radians. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.